remind you that there is at 11:30 on Sunday the 3rd, virtual fellowship time to reconnect with people in the church. So look at your email for the instructions on how to connect with that. And today we're looking at the thin places in our lives when circumstances make us feel disconnected enough that it makes us more open to connecting with a higher consciousness, and using the 23rd Psalm as the basis for our meditation. So please stop and read that again, looking for new insights if you haven't done so already. So the thin places. The joy I had when I bottle-fed orphaned lambs on my grandparents' ranch in South Dakota comes close to the bliss of nursing my own babies. In some incomprehensible way, God has such maternal love. The Bible uses several analogies to describe God's love for people. Jesus compares God's love to how a mother hen protects her chicks, even to the point of sacrificing her own life. How would you describe God's relationship to people? How would you describe your relationship with God? Shepherd is a helpful, even if not urban metaphor for God and Jesus. Sheep truly need a shepherd and not a dumb one. Sheep have a tendency to get into trouble, and sheep may make bad choices and find themselves stranded. Often, if a sheep falls onto its side and then ends up on its back, it usually cannot get up on its own. Gas accumulates in the stomach, cutting off the air passages so that the sheep may eventually suffocate. Not so different from us, really. The Lord is my shepherd. What is your sense of the meaning of the shepherd analogy in Psalm 23? Bedouin and other shepherds care for their sheep, leading them to safe drinking water, where the not very intelligent creatures have little risk of falling in or drowning. When water is scarce, shepherds do not rest until finding life-saving water to replenish their flock. When sheep are wounded, Bedouin shepherds bring a wounded one into their tent and anoint its head with medicinal oil. So it is with us. The shepherd's care is a metaphor for divine care that surrounds us always. Children's Sunday school teachers show pictures of Jesus as a sweet shepherd with lambs romping among the flowers. Church school tends not to focusing on harrowing, life-threatening circumstances that shepherds face when they faithfully protect their flock. Yet shepherds guard their sheep with their own lives when predators lurk or when traversing dangerous terrain. The Lord is my shepherd. No matter our age or status, adversity can be a strong incentive to connect more fully with our shepherd. Otherwise, church talk is little more than a momentary good feeling, or worse, religious affirmations remind us that we are not well connected with divine power and grace. Verses like, I am able to do all things through Christ who strengthens me, from Philippians, may make us feel guilty or disheartened. How do you access divine guidance and power? Thin places where the interface between us and the sacred are often porous and more accessible than during everyday preoccupied life, are places where we might most readily connect. To explore how to build stronger connection with divine power and grace, let's explore Richard Rohr's long-time mission to help people find a bridge to divine guidance and strength. Here's some of what Richard Rohr says about making that connection with God. Father Rohr labels this connection and the thin places as liminal awareness. Liminal space is an inner state between our conscious and subconscious, like having left one room but not yet entered the other. We usually enter liminal space when our usual way of being is challenged or changed, perhaps when we lose a job or a loved one, during illness, at the birth of a child, or during any major relocation. Such transition is graced time, but often does not feel graced. Transitions make us open to liminal space because we are not in control and we feel uncertain and unsettled. The global pandemic is an example of immense collective liminal space. The vulnerability and openness of liminal space provides room for something genuinely new to happen. In such openness, we are receptive, like an erased page waiting for new words. We are often most teachable in liminal space because we are humbled. This in-between place is free of illusions and reliance on false payoffs. Liminality keeps us questioning instead of being stuck in ego confirmation. Rather than self-defeating denial, liminality calls so-called normalcy into creative question. It's no surprise that we generally avoid liminal space. Authentic spiritual mentoring focuses on encouraging people into liminal space, I can't even say it, and to keep them there long enough that they can learn something essential and new. Many spiritual giants like St. Francis, Gillian of Norwich, Dorothy Day, and even Mahatma Gandhi tried to teach and live their lives in ongoing liminality. That focus admittedly put them on the periphery of culture. Assessing liminal space most often requires not doing and not performing. Our usual successful patterns of accomplishment do not work well in spiritual endeavors. We need to be silent instead of speaking. Experience emptiness instead of fullness, or focus on self. Such repetitive openness ordinarily requires abandonment of personal security as a high priority. In liminal space, we let go of control and reside in a non-ego state. Taking time to develop such spiritual discipline is worth the journey. Liminal experience can help us re-enter the world with freedom and new creative approaches to life. Even if you have never heard the word liminal before, you likely have an intuitive sense of this in-between state. It would be difficult to be in the midst of global crisis and not feel caught between what we knew and what may come. Global pandemic changes our consciousness and that of future generations. Spiritual openness to divine grace can help us to live with peace of mind and a desire to do our part to help others. Richard Rohr summarizes, through liminal spaces, we may encounter, however briefly, experiences of divine union. If we are receptive, we can experience a radical oneness between ourselves, God, each other, and all creation. How might we access this liminal space? First, find a comfortable, quiet place and a comfortable posture. Second, quiet and calm your mind and relax your whole body, especially relax those places you usually hold tension. Third, patiently and calmly, openly visualize the goodness you want to experience in your own life and see happen throughout the world. Patiently visualize such things as peace of mind, light, joy, or hope. Visualize dear ones as whole and knowing that they are beloved and blessed. Visualize conflicts or problems melting away into a far better state. And then fourth, rest in a state of spiritual connection. Remain in an open and attentive listening mode. And an optional opportunity is to pray whatever is in your stream of consciousness. This is most fruitful as unstructured prayer. You can use a finger labyrinth. There are samples attached, or you can Google search for finger labyrinths, or take a quiet walk through your living space, neighborhood, or park. Open yourself up to quietude and listening. As George Furness highlighted in a recent sermon, Agnes Sanford wisely said, "Only the amount of God that you get inside you works for you." I describe her message this way: our access to divine comfort or guidance is limited by our accessibility. A child struggled to memorize Psalm 23 until he figured out what this psalm means. The Lord is my shepherd, and that's all I need to know. May God deeply enrich you. Amen.